Welcome to all the familiar faces, the folks who've been here before, NRHS members, Wisconsin chapter members, and the like. So this is the last event we're going to have before we take our summer hiatus. So it's a neat slideshow format that we're going to do tonight. It's not an official meeting, but it's just one of these fill-in things that we're doing. We will resume these probably in October. We will resume our meetings in September. If you are not a member, you are welcome to join us here, but we also ask that you join our chapter and support us. Simply go to www.nrhswis.org and click on the join button, and you can become a supporter like all of your friends here are tonight. So many of them. So without further ado, oh, you know what I want to do here? I want to get a show of hands. If everybody could just maybe raise their hand and say that they have signed up or they are going to sign up to go to the NRHS convention in August in Milwaukee. Got a few people going, handful. And let me just keep them up because I just want to go to the next screen here. And a few of you over there. Tony White is saying yes. Well, that's good because he's the vice president of the NRHS. So that's great. All right. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you all there in August. And then our first chapter meeting, we're going to hope that we're going to meet in person. We haven't confirmed this yet, but we're going to hope we're going to meet in person in September. And then with a Zoom component, so folks that are far away can be part of the meeting as well. So we'll more details on that as we get going. So tonight, our program that we're having tonight is pretty simple. It's a slideshow arrangement, which we have 5 presenters, at least 4 presenters. So 4, maybe 5 participants, if all works out well. We're going to start off with Ron Burkhard, and then second up will be Ed Kohler. Third up, hang on, let me just bring up the thing here. Third up will be Mike Sosala. Number 4 will be Rob Pfeiffer. Mike Delvecchio, I heard from him, he's having a medical thing going on. He's not sure if he's going to be able to make it, but we're going to wish him well and cross our fingers that he's going to make it tonight. But we've got a good lineup for you tonight. So this is going to be a great show. And I'm sure all of, except for Mike Sosala, of course, who's going like this, which, don't do that, Mike. So Ron Burkhard, who is one of our newer members of the Wisconsin chapter, NRHS, why don't you come to the fore, say a few words of introduction, and I turn it over to you, sir.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. Pleasure to see you again. This is a show from 1959. I took my first train picture in 1959 of 6315 and 5632 double-headed with a 620 style bellows camera looking into the sun. I went through Hinsdale where I grew up at about 55 or 60 miles an hour, and all I got was a black blur because of a 25th of a second shutter speed. So that said, there's 2 pictures that are from an engineer that I worked with when the Sioux Line bought the Milwaukee, and 2 from my wife, but otherwise all images that are those that I took. Come on, this is there we go. Okay, this is from 1959, September 9th of September 6th of 1959, and the image was taken by Carl Sennett, who was a Sioux Line engineer. This is Chicago Union Station. They're pumping air, and the red Mars light would be on when the train's in emergency. And this was taken at Mendota. I was not on the train. This is another of Carl's pictures when they stopped for coal. This is the this is the Illini Railroad Club trip to yesteryear, June 6th. I'm sorry, June 1st of 1963 at Highlands under Oak Street Bridge. And 5632 got painted gold in 1964, so obviously I had to get that. And this was the last trip, September of 64. 5632 ran a trip to Salmonock, to the Salmonock County Fair. And after turning on the Y at Earlville, sat on a siding waiting for the patrons to go back to Chicago. This is November 8th of 1962. It was the first fan trip my parents let me go on. I was 15 years old. Finally, they turned me loose. This is climbing the hill out of Ottawa, headed towards Streator. We had CB&Q diesels over the New York Central branch to Zering and 5632 back to Chicago. And this is along US 34 west of Aurora, doing about 60 miles an hour, April 1965. This is a year before the Q stopped steam. This is the Oregon Way Freight returning from Oregon. If you notice, they have a Jeep type boxcar from Cable Printing, which probably was full of Playboy magazines. Normally the Jeep would be set out at Eola, and a scoot would be tied onto an eastbound scoot, and a early morning scoot would drag it into Chicago on the back end of the E unit. And this is a year later, the last trip with 4960 as a Q engine. 1964, rode in the Illini Club trip up to Marquette and Huron Mountain. And so this was a train there. Following day was a lousy day weather-wise. This is Duluth and Northeastern on the Duluth-Winnipeg Pacific at Taft, Minnesota. And of course, living in Chicago, I had to get out to Sterling, Northwestern Steel and Wire. And I went to college in Nebraska for a year after high school, and this is October of 65. Took the train out, a friend of mine picked me up, and we rail fanned the Front Range for a day, and then the next day rode 844 from Denver to Rawlins, Wyoming and back. And this is one of the run-bys just east of Rawlins before we got in. And before I went in the service, did a whole lot of rail fanning that summer in between working for the post office and whatever else. The Cadillac in Lake City, which is Polson #2 now. It's also worked for Saginaw Lumber and Rainier Lumber. It's quite a boomer. And this was staying with the engine. This is #2 on the Oregon Coast Scenic in 2018. And I got down to Reeder 3 times. First time was an Illini trip. This is September of 66. And then in 67, I was on leave before I went overseas to Germany for 2.5 years. Ed Robinson and I went down to Reeder, among other places, and caught number 11. The other time I was there, we caught the 108. So 3 trips and 3 different engines. Then later in the month, in September of 66, went to Denver and rode the Great Western 51 from Denver up to, was supposed to go to Longmont, but because of flu trouble, we only made it as far as Boulder. So this is Denver Union Station prior to departure. And this is a run by someplace en route. Following day, the Rocky Mountain Railroad Club ran a charter, was diesel from Denver up to Cheyenne, and then 844 from Cheyenne to Rawlins, I think it was. So, and then obviously there's a Q engine in the middle and a turbine on the right. And this is one of the run-bys near Dale Junction. And the 2 days before I went in the service for 3 years, I rode 6218 from Chicago to South Bend and back. And this is just I was shooting 8mm movies for this, and the next day I decided I was going to shoot color slides. Well, the day well, whatever. Anyway, this is the next day. So I got a little of both. And then I stayed after basic. I went to Fort Eustis, Virginia, for transportation movements control. And during the day and weekday, we'd hear the engines strutting their stuff around the post. But I went down there one Saturday, and everything, it's dead, locked up, tired in the drum. So all I could do was get some static shots. And this is the Caprati engine, the 611. And after I got out of the service, I hired out on the Milwaukee Road, and in November of '69, and I took a couple of days off in the summer of '70 and went up and fired the Keweenaw Central 29 for a week. October of '70, I qualified as a car retarder operator, and this is B Tower looking toward the south. This was actually taken around 1988 by a good friend of mine, the late Bill Rhea. 1980, my son and I went to Fort Wayne. Had some friends that told me about the 765. Going to be going to Chicago for the movie Four Friends. So went, and I had to get a picture of the 765 lettered to the New York Central engine. And then 1522 came here to Fond du Lac in 1988. And 1992, 3751 made a fast round trip from LA to Chicago. And this is going back the day going back west. This is Illinois 17 at the Santa Fe Railroad. And then 261 made its appearance, and so this is from County Road F, same location as 1522 from the bridge at F. And 3985 at Beecher, Illinois, headed south on an excursion. And this is the real 2716. After it was redone back to Chesapeake and Ohio, when the Fort Wayne group had it for a brief period of time. And this is on a TP&W hauling about 50 cars. And I did get to China 3 times. So this is Ximinyi. I think I got it pronounced right. And then at Shenyang, we caught it with an 060 tank. And in 2002, went to the Nevada Northern, where I ended up getting involved with Chris Scow at Trains Unlimited Tours. While I was doing some video, my wife shot these 2 pictures. And then the year I did not, they're in between 2002 and 4, Dave Goodhart ran a charter on the Western Maryland Scenic. So had to do that one. And then Dave also did some work on the Ohio Central. And there's a little bit of a backstory here. We're doing run-bys at Conesville, and a young lad was riding by, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "We're taking pictures of the steam engine. How'd you like to make some money?" So we offered him, I don't know, $5 or $10 a piece. There was about 10 of us or more that ponied up the money and gave it to him and said, "Okay, when the train comes by, you wave." So we got a good, we got what looks like a nice picture to me anyway. After running in 2004, after running some charters for Chris Scow on the Cummers and Toltec, Durango and Silverton, and Nevada Northern, friend and I went to Portland to follow the 4449 East. This is at North Bonneville. They were taking it east to run the Montana Daylight on the Montana Rail Link. And this is splitting the semaphores at Donlin, which many years ago used to be a siding on the 4th subdivision west of Missoula. And the following day, going around the classic shot at Jens, Montana. And in 2005, Chris ran a Trains Unlimited Tours special for the NRHS convention from Oakland up to Portland. And this is, we overnighted at on the McLeod. So this is the Jeep 20 that led us up to McLeod. The following day, there was a problem with the brake stand, and we were not able to take the 2001 or the FP9 with us. So this is the following morning. The people that rode the train that were paying customers had hotel rooms down in McLeod or someplace. I got stuck on a dormitory car with the generator or a Santa Fe. Anyway, this is what greeted us about 5:30 in the morning. And I would bet that the designers or Milwaukee Road people never envisioned that the Cedar Rapids would be on the McLeod with Mount Shasta in the background. And Chris chartered a bus for us to pace the special. This is the NRHS special at Warden, Oregon. And the 700 and the 4449 double-headed from Portland to Wisharam. 700 led east, 4449 led west. And I did not ride. I was I was escorting somebody from California, so we rented the car. So yes, I do shoot diesels. This is at Thedford, Nebraska, September 17th of 2005. This was taken at 7:16 in the evening, and at 7:20, the westbound came by. And then a couple of weeks later, I was out in Pennsylvania for East Broadtop with the doubleheader. And 1 year they had both engines in service. And 2006, Historic Transport Preservation, Bill Ray sponsored a charter on the with the CP 2816 from Calgary up to Lake Louise and back. And this is at going west at Seaby, Alberta, Canada. And it snowed that the next night or that night also. So we got some. It was totally unexpected, but not it was welcome. And Jim Rinn sponsored a trip on the Alberta Prairie with the ex-Mississippian, I believe it was a 77. So we had a day, an afternoon with that. And then because I was working with Chris, I I'm following steam news, and San Luis and Rio Grande activated steam. So I had got the 44, I'm at the 1744 to run a couple of charters for us. First was a photo freight from Alamosa to La Veta and back one day. And this is the first day, and that's as much sun as we saw the entire day. Second day was passenger. This is at Fur, climbing the hill toward Fur. And this is the last run by of the day. That little engine could really roll. The people in California are going to enjoy it when they get the boiler put back on the chassis. The speed restriction is supposed to have been about 30 here, and I know he was doing every bit of 40 to 45, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. 12:25 at Owasso on a night photo session. And this is the next day. And the following May, 1744, they'd found firebox issues with it. And so they brought the 18 down from Mount Hood. And I ran a 2-day charter from Alamosa to La Veta. We laid over at La Veta on May 3rd. And so this is east of Alamosa on the flats west of Fort Garland. And the following morning, this is the first steam train east of La Veta since 1956. Being a narrow gauge fanatic, had to go to the Sumter Valley. This is the Heisler number 3. And it's nice that they have a Y because you can go both in turn trains. And this is the pond where you can get reflection shots in the when it's not frozen over. It's the Elkhorn Mountains in the background. And in May of 2015, Jim Wren sponsored a trip, a day with the 611 at North Carolina Transportation Museum. And this is a day or two later at Swan, North Carolina, headed towards Roanoke. And they ran a excursion in a couple of days later. They took the train a couple of days later over east, and it had been raining, and I have a GPS unit on my digital. Rain got into port and fried the electronics, and all I had was the black and white to film this with. So, but anyway, I did go digital in 2009 when they took Kodachrome off the market. But everything you're seeing here is slide. 1003 being right here in the neighborhood. Had done charters with that. This is a friend's 1947 DeSoto limousine. That was a prop for some of the run-bys. And a night photo session at Randolph. And in 2017, 1003 came down to Chicago for a benefit. And this is going by 820 on the Milwaukee, going underneath the Northwestern Bridge. And in 2016, Pete Lara ran a charter on a Blue Mountain in Reading. And so a couple of friends and I decided, well, let's go catch the Strasburg because they're running. Well, it was colder than heck. And so we caught the 90 with all 3 freight runs with the wedge plow. So it was quite a fun, cold couple of days. And this is the last day. We had a snow getting in the starter issue and shorted out the starter in my son's Volvo. So we were waiting for a flatbed to pick it up. This is Pete's charter. This is the night photo session at Jim Thorpe. And then a couple days earlier, this is 2017, he ran a charter on the Everett. This is at Roaring Springs. And this is the next day in the pouring rain. Had to get to Iowa to catch the Americanized version of a QJ. And of course, the big boy came through Dalton, which is about 35 miles from here. And this is 1971. This gets back headed towards more for the Trains Unlimited. I towed a car out to my brother in Boulder, and then a friend and I came to Heber, Wasatch Mountain Valley, Wasatch Mountain Railroad, I think it is. This is Bridal Veil Falls. And the 110 that is now operational at in South Dakota was there. And this is 2004, one of the charters I ran for Trains Unlimited. This is just east of Osier. And this is 2006. This is the only location in east of Cumbres that you can double head because it's uphill. Railroad timetable prohibits double heading between Cumbres and Antonito, except for this location. 2008, I arranged to have had enough cars that required a rear end pusher, so we tacked the 489 in ahead and behind the rider gun. The caboose was behind the engine. And I don't know if anybody ever videoed this, but the noise was incredible. At the same time, we renumbered the 484 to the 485. And this is Perry Pond looking up at Windy Point. This is 1971. After we'd done Heber, we followed the UP to Cheyenne and then came down the Front Range and ducked over. We had a charter on the Cumbres and Toltec Labor Day weekend, and then the next day was a charter here on the Rio Grande. And you can't get this picture anymore because there's all kinds of buildings there. And this is 2002 from the Nevada Northern trip. We're on our way to ride the Cumbres and Toltec, and we came through Silverton and over Red Mountain Pass. And so anyway, this is it had been raining and we got lucky. I ran the first charter with the rebuilt 315 in 2007. We used it for 3 days on a Durango in Silverton. This is the night photo session before everything started. And this is Baker's Park, which is the area that this town of Silverton resides in. This is the Animas River Bridge. And while we're waiting for the sun to come up over the ridge, so we could have light down at the Animas River Bridge going back south, we did a couple of run-bys up in town. I had a professional person take out the building on the right and change the color of the coach to green, but that's a fantasy. This is the reality. And this is the same, the day going south. There's an old mine site, and there was a boiler there. The various parts of it burned down a number of years ago. I think the boiler is still there, but anyway, this was one of my, I like this one anyway. So anyway, that's the end of the show, gentlemen. Chief Illini at Marquette, Michigan, back in 1964. So, and Chief Alina is now at Illinois Railroad Museum. So I'm going to stop the share and pass it on.
Well, thank you, Ron. Appreciate that. Excellent program. If everybody would show Ron some love, that would be
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
These reactions, thumbs up or what have you. Excellent. Good deal. And anybody have any questions for Ron before we move on to Ed? Anyone? Not hearing anybody.